Today, the castle's officer tower grows another level, and we start bringing that floor to life with lots of new details. But before we build higher, we need to finish the surrounding rocky terrain so no one can access the tower from outside the castle. I'm Jasper, welcome to CastleStube. Let's get building! With lots of new dark bluish grey parts, I'm finally able to finish the rocky terrain directly beneath the tower. Especially the 2x3 wedge plates really help integrate the modular tower into the landscape without leaving visual gaps, which is always tricky when you're building at anything other than 90 degrees. Another little challenge, this section of the landscape actually hides the covers of our secret treasure chamber, so I have to make sure these pieces stay removable, otherwise we couldn't access the treasure anymore. Well, I just noticed this black plate is visible and I don't like it, so I will replace it. Well, it's much better now. It doesn't look like it's throwing a shadow anymore. I really paid a lot of attention to shape the terrain here, so that it doesn't look climbable from the outside of the castle. Using lots of small slopes, especially cheese slopes, helps to create these sharp, rough rock formations. After finish the terrain, we can finally move back to the tower. While I continue building the next staircase, I want to share something interesting. The 45-degree staircase from the last episode actually sparked quite a bit of discussion on Reddit. Apparently, staircases with a similar steep angle really exist in some places, for example in Japan. Meanwhile, in the Netherlands, staircase design seems to be a bit, let's say, creative. Countries like Italy or the United States, on the other hand, follow step proportions that are quite similar to the standards we use in Germany. Before we can continue building higher, we have to finish the walls for the first floor, brick by brick. I'm fairly certain medieval builders had the exact same problems. You can't really start the second floor before the first one exists. You can already see that things are becoming a bit more noble up here. On the small landing between the two staircases, I added a few golden details in the corner. A golden candle holder and a small dark red statue standing on a golden pedestal. Just a little hint that the upper floor of this tower will become more prestigious. Of course, this staircase also needs a front cover. And since I built the stairs from the other side, this was the moment I realized my snot studs don't quite line up here. Classic building moment. Medieval castles naturally come with a lot of grey walls. That's part of the look, but at least on the inside we can try to break that up with as many little details as possible. So while finishing this level, I decided to add one more small element above the crossbows in the armory. Just something that fits right in a room full of weapons. A wooden wall decoration with two shields from other factions. Are they trophies? Taken from defeated enemies? Or symbols of alliances? With this detail in place and another row of modified 1x2 log pattern bricks, just like on the ground floor, we can finish the walls of this level with a layer of tiles for the modularity. And it turns out this floor ended up exactly at the same height as the ground level, which obviously makes sense because after all, it uses the same staircase geometry. After finishing the basic structure for the floor, which again turned out fairly thick for stability, I made one small adjustment. The gap next to the staircase is now 2 studs narrower than on the level below. I quickly realized I would need a bit more space to properly design the room itself, so shifting the staircase opening slightly gave me that extra room to work with. I really experimented a lot this week, trying different details for the second floor. So this update is less about building huge sections and more about creating lovely details. Remember, this is meant to be the office of a high-ranking military officer, whatever that position would have been called in medieval armies. It's a room for meetings, planning and strategic discussions. And to create a bit of contrast to all the stone, I decided to make the office feel warmer with a wooden floor, a mix of reddish brown and dark brown parquet. But with the floor in place, let's start bringing this room to life with some interior details. For the officer himself, I built a more elegant chair in black falcon blue. It's loosely inspired by the red chair from the set 31120 medieval castle, but I redesigned it to be a bit slimmer so it doesn't look as bulky. Visitors, however, have to take a seat on simple wooden chairs, as it should be, everyone in their proper place. A stone table stands next to the chairs. I tried building a wooden one, but the stone contrasts much better with the warm floor. And historically, stone tables were often a sign of wealth and status, which fits this officer room quite well. For the table I used jumper plates together with these 1x4 round plates to create the oval shape. The downside though is that the table turned out quite fragile. On top, the table uses a mix of round tiles in dark and light bluish grey, creating a tiled stone pattern. If Lego ever makes the newer 2x2 round plate in these grey tones, this build could definitely be made much more stable. A few letters and documents are scattered across the table, illuminated by candles, because even in a castle tower you need proper light to read. Finally, a small bowl with berries. Probably not something every soldier in the castle would get to enjoy. Because Lego furniture is always a bit oversized and space inside the tower is limited, the seating area actually sits in the corner farthest away from the staircase, turned slightly at an angle to make the most of the room. Across the room, in the opposite corner, an armor rack displays the officer's personal armor. Most of the black armor pieces come from the 31168 medieval knight castle set, and the sword hanging with it meant to be something special. A unique blade, forged by the local blacksmith, specifically for this officer. Following the wall from the armor rack towards the staircase, I add a closed cabinet. Storage is always useful in a room like this, even if Lego cabinets sadly can't be made fully functional without becoming far too bulky for this scale. After doing a bit of research, I decided to build a rustic wooden cabinet with heavy iron hinges similar to the ones used in medieval furniture. I used these 1x1 round plates with a handle in black as hinges, which work surprisingly well for suggesting heavy iron hardware. Opposite the cabinet, next to the table area, stands a bookshelf filled with various books and small decorative objects. I intentionally kept the colors fairly restrained here, mostly beige, grey, gold and a few touches of red and violet, so it adds detail without becoming too colorful. With the furniture in place, we can finalize the floor and move back to the outer walls. Even though this is an officer's office, the tower is still a defensive structure. On the three outer sides of the tower, the walls include arrow slits in case of an attack, like in the floor below. But the side of the tower facing the castle courtyard, features a small row of barred windows. From here, the officer can keep an eye on everything happening inside the castle. For the railing, I used these lightsaber handles in pearl dark grey mounted on 1x1 round tiles with bar. On top, I added reddish brown tiles as a handrail. Overall, I think it gives the impression of a noble railing with decorated steel bars and a wooden handrail. This will be the last level of the tower, before it ends with the battlement platform on top. I really didn't want to build the same staircase once more, and honestly there isn't enough space for another full staircase anyway, so I decided to do things a little bit different here. Instead, there will be a small wooden staircase with 4 steps leading up to a platform. From there, the only way to reach the battlement platform above is by a wooden ladder. But before we build that wooden ladder, we first need to align the height of the walls, so we have a clean finish for this update. We also need the wall as a mounting point for the ladder. And I have to admit, I'm slowly starting to run out of light bluish grey parts. Whenever you think your stock will last just a little bit longer this time, Lego quickly proves you wrong. First one piece disappears and then suddenly more and more parts are gone. Luckily, with Lego there is almost always an alternative way to build something. There were quite a few comments about how staircases and towers were often designed to give the defenders an advantage, and I think the ladder actually works quite well for that. Finally, we populate the full furnished office with a few minifigures. The crossbowman is just climbing the tower to take up his post on the battlement platform. A young knight stands in the office, looking rather unhappy, while an older civilian seems to be enjoying the berries. Meanwhile, the officer sits in his favorite chair organizing his correspondence. And with that, another level of the officer's tower is complete. In the next update, I'm planning to finish the tower with a battlement platform on top. Do you think this platform should have a roof? Or maybe some heavy siege equipment like a ballista? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and until next time, the castle keeps growing, brick by brick.